Hey, it's Angela from the blog Angela Marie Made. I'm really excited to show you how we built our DIY workbench. We're currently in the process of turning our back porch into a workshop, and because of the limited space in the room, we needed to build a rolling workbench that would work for a small workshop but still be large enough for doing projects. It took me several hours, but I came up with both a pretty and functional DIY workbench on wheels design that I love. And even better, it's budget friendly too. It cost me $185 for the lumber and the caster wheels. I did use premium plywood and caster wheels for this workbench, which I'll link both of those below in the description box, but you could actually build this workbench for even less money by using different plywood or casters. Okay, let's get started. Begin by gathering all of your materials. You can get a full material list, cut list, tutorial, and printable PDF build plans on my blog, which is linked below in the description box. Step number 1 is to make your lumber cut. Again, you can get a full cut list on my blog, which is linked in the description box below. Use a miter saw for the 4x4, 2x2, 2x4, 1x4, and 1x2 cuts, and use a table saw or circular saw and straight edge guide for the plywood cuts. Step 2 is to add pocket holes to the boards. Make sure the Kreg jig is set for 1.5 inch thick wood, and add pocket holes on each end of all of the 9 2x4 boards. For 3 of the longer 2x4s, add 3 more pocket holes along one side of the board as shown here. And for 2 of the shorter 2x4s, add 2 pocket holes along one side of the boards as well. These holes are for attaching our workbench top to the bottom frame. Next, add pocket holes along all sides of the larger plywood board for the workbench top. Make sure the Kreg jig is set for 3/4 of an inch thick wood for the plywood. Step 3 is to assemble the side frames of the workbench. Use some scrap 2x4 wood and 1/2 inch thick wood or wood shims placed under both sides of the 2x4s for easy attaching. Attach 2 of the 4x4 legs together with one of the shorter 2x4s at the top of the 4x4 boards to form the top of the side frame. Use wood glue and 2.5 inch Kreg screws to attach the boards together. We also use clamps for this step to help. Then mark 3 inches up from the bottom of the 4x4s. Place another short 2x4 at these marks and attach the same way as the top 2x4. Next, add one of the shorter 2x2s on top of the bottom 2x4, 3/4 of an inch down from the edge. Attach with wood glue and 2.5 inch wood screws and clamps to help. This board is to create a shelf support for the 3/4 inch thick lower plywood shelf. Repeat these steps again to create the second side frame piece. Okay, we just finished building the side frame pieces, and now it's time to attach the front and back frames. So for this step, it's just going to be easiest to do it on the ground. Attach the two side frames together and create the back of the workbench by attaching one of the longer 2x4s on the bottom, lined up with the side 2x4s. Again, 3 inches up from the 4x4 bottoms. Attach with wood glue and Kreg screws. Also, side note, we made a mistake and attached the 2x4 with the pocket holes along the top edge on the bottom here when it should be for the top back frame. So make sure not to do that. Add one of the longer 2x2s on top of the bottom 2x4, 3/4 of an inch down from the edge again. Use wood glue and wood screws to attach it in place. We intentionally made this 2x2 backboard shelf support shorter to easily fit it in between the side frames here. Next, attach the top 2x4 board, the one with the 3 pocket holes along one edge, to the side frames, using Kreg screws. Make sure the pocket holes along the edge are facing upwards. Flip the workbench frame over and repeat these steps again to create the front side of the workbench frame. Step 5 is to attach the top middle support board to the workbench frame. Mark the middle point on the top of the front and back 2x4 frames. Attach the last short 2x4 board with Kreg screws at this middle point to create a middle support for the top of the workbench. Step 6 is to attach the lower shelf to the workbench frame. Place the smaller plywood board on top of the 2x2 supports in between the lower 2x4 frame to create the workbench shelf. Attach it to the 2x2s with wood glue and 1 1/4 inch brad nails. Okay, that's a wrap for the frame of the workbench. Now we can get started with the top part. Step 7 is to build the workbench top. Attach the 1x2 boards to the sides of the plywood with wood glue and 1 1/4 inch Kreg screws. We used our Kreg right angle clamp and regular clamps to help. After attaching with the Kreg screws, we added a few 1 1/4 inch brad nails through the 1x2 ends to ensure they were lined up evenly. Next, attach the 2 longer 1x4s along the front and back edges of the larger plywood board with wood glue and 1 1/4 inch wood screws countersunk a little bit beneath the wood surface. Then add the 2 shorter 1x4s on the ends to finish framing out the inside of the 1x2s. Also, there should be a 10-inch scrap board left over from the 1x4 cuts. Attach it in the middle of the workbench top, which is 3 feet in from the edge. This board will sit on top of the metal frame support board. I didn't want to have to buy a whole new 1x4 board for this part, so this 10-inch board works. Ideally, I would have used a 1.5-inch thick butcher block top for this workbench, but because I wanted to build it on a budget, I had to create the look of a thicker butcher block top for a low cost. So that's why I framed the workbench top out this way. Flip the top over and your workbench build is complete. You might need to sand the top edges of the workbench some so the 1x2s and plywood are perfectly even where they meet. Step 8 is to stain or paint if you want to. At this point, you can leave your workbench unfinished or stain or paint it. We chose to paint our workbench frame white and stain the top with 1 coat of stain. I'll link the color we used below in the description box. We also finished the top with 2 coats of a water-based polyurethane. Step 9 is to attach the caster wheels to the workbench. Attach heavy-duty caster wheels to the 4x4s with wood screws. I'll also link the caster wheels we used below this video as well. Step 10 is to attach the top to the workbench frame. Place the top on the workbench frame so there's a 3/4 inch overhang on the 4x4s from the sides and the front and back. Attach the top to the frame with 2.5-inch Kreg screws into the pocket holes along the top edges of the 2x4s. DIY workbench turned out even better than I could have imagined, and I really love it. I'm so excited to finish this room makeover up, and I'll be revealing our full workshop makeover next week, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. If you have any questions about this build, please let me know below in the comments, or you can ask over in our Woodworking for the Home Facebook group at facebook.com/group/woodworkingforthehome. Okay, let me know what you guys think about this workbench, and if you'd want one for your workshop or garage or wherever you do projects. Thanks again for watching.